wait, mate, down in the bottom right side. I haven't seen too much of his play yet, so I'm really keen to see what he's got in store for us. It is a Protoss player playing SCV.
In the upper left-hand side, a tried and tested veteran of the Chinese scene, the red Protoss player, still part of Invictus Gaming. It is MacSed.
10 years on that team, I think, something like that. MacSed, dude, I mean, what a beast. MacSed's been at it for so long, and I remember a few years ago, I was like, oh, you know, people were like, oh, you know, he's a bit older, a bit slower, not real a contender. And he came in there and he was like, oh, I'm just going to do like mech Protoss PvP and like weird. He's just like, I'm going to make just immortals into carriers. And I was like, what is this? Like, that was just a one-off. And then the next season he was back to playing normal Protoss. And I was like, okay, like MacSed's actually just a cool guy. He's got a lot of esports experience and really, really knows how to stay calm under pressure. SCV, not as experienced, not as deep into the scene as him, but definitely a player who started to show some real potential as well. So I'm really keen to see kind of what he brings out. You know, losing 2-0 to Jaishi yesterday in the PvP, it could happen to anyone. Jaishi's one of the best players in the entire groups here. So I think SCV's got his work cut out for him, though. Golden Ore is a big map. MacSed generally a player who's very good at getting up to 3 base and then really, you know, controlling those huge armies at a very high level.
Yeah, no, this honestly could be, again, especially in a region like China, PvP can be very aggressive, but they can also end up in those very kind of wonky games where you end up going into the disruptors. You end up taking those longer, bigger trades and those longer games in general. So we'll see what the plans become. MacSed's definitely never shied away from a longer game or a larger challenge in that regard. So yeah, very excited to see, because this should be fairly intriguing as we get this up and running. A couple stalkers coming through on both sides, the warp gate's coming up as well, and getting this all underway for the moment. As you do see a couple probes going to keep on moving around, a couple more stalkers coming about as well.
These two haven't actually played since last year's ESL Masters, and it was a 2-1 in favor of SCV then, so it's been a while since they've played in a competitive format. Good to have that history of having the most recent victory there. And this double stalker, first double stalker, as you pointed out. Pylon at the front. He wants to see if there's any adepts coming out, you know? And MacSed's like, well, I'm just not going to show you what I'm doing. 2 stalkers into 2 sentries. There is a probe down here. It's hanging out, ready to take a nexus. Pylon gets cancelled. Nice job hiding that information. Meanwhile, SCV goes for an expansion of his own, but no sentries until, okay, 1 sentry finally starts for SCV. Dude, that's bizarre. If you're playing a defensive expand, going 3 stalkers before sentry, like, I understand if you're going proxy robo, but I'm totally with you. I'm like, yeah, man, this region is not loving the sentry change at all.
Yeah, no, they are really not, because, I mean, it was the first day of the regionals. We're like, man, I'm so excited to see the new sentry in PvP. Proceed to not see any new sentry at all for, like, a bunch of games. So, yeah.
MacSed, though, he's going to make up for it now. He's the guy. He's like, you know what? You guys have been missing out. I'll show you how it's done.
Okay, I'd be down for that. Like I said, I'd be down to see the new sentry. I think the new sentry's made this matchup pretty cool. A little bit of, you know, breath of fresh air and everything. So definitely down to see a little bit more of it, as we just have the Nexus, the Robo facility all coming about here as well. And
Robo first for SCV, it's like very safe, but it's also not the best transition because your blink is so late. So that getting scouted by MacSed, you have to be a bit more worried about like a prism attack, especially with force fields, right? But because you've got your blink coming up so early, I actually think MacSed's in a great position. He even sees the adepts. Oh, seeing those adepts coming is great. So he should send some stalkers out, try and catch these adepts ahead of time, keep warping in more stalkers at home. And MacSed, he's actually going to send his own adepts to counterattack. He's been quite greedy on the unit production. Just 2 stalkers, 2 sentries, and finally adding 2 adepts.
Yeah, just taking a little while to kind of get that underway, and it's going to be on its way with it now. He's also going to be the one to the forge. Obviously, SCV is cranking out an immortal, so 2 very different styles. MacSed with his much more active style, where it's like, okay, I'm going to have blink, I'm going to be able to move around the map, there's a lot I can do there. The SCV much more so with this setup where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to just play into the immortal, the more defensive basic army setup and all the rest of it. So continue to build to that. These couple of adepts shade up to the high ground, moving into the main base. Again, trying to just see a little bit more of what's going on. Another stalker gets warped in right now.
The only addendum I'd make is you said more defensive. It's definitely more immobile, the Robo, but it can turn into a powerful all-in. So I know that's kind of what you meant, not meaning to like backseat or anything, but I'm like, it's one of those things where it's like, It could lead into a big all-in. He takes a third Nexus though, so no, it's absolutely just going to be a very turtly safe Robo play, as you pointed out, which is the more likely option usually. You know, doing a 2-base Robo all-in is super late. MacSed's got a big lead on the upgrades, but it's a bit scary for him to just drop a third as fast. So I think, you know, he's got to maybe wait for another hallucination to really confirm what's happening. And actually, SCV is making quite a lot of sentries now. So late in the game, 5.5 minutes. Wow.
Yes, the Stalker's going to get rid of that Prism, so Prism just dies. That's obviously not great to just give that up so easily, so not exactly ideal there. You can see this Nexus dropping down to the third base. Robo, a couple more gates coming up. The Twilight Council is building as well. And we just take a moment or two to see what the next step will be. Again, a couple gateways coming now. The Robo facility getting produced through. Just little bits and pieces. Establishing right now, Forge and the Twilight Council finishing on the side of SCV, and obviously just wants us out to protect his third base. More or less the same idea as what MacSed is going for the most part.
I think getting active with these Stalkers is pretty huge, right? You know, you've got the faster blink. They're already catching Adepts is great, but I mean, you should be active with this, and I would like to see MacSed play a Gateway Man style and take a quick fourth as well, because you see how like Sentry and Mortal focused your opponent is. Just don't fight him front on. Just use your mobility. Like here, you can even run past and blink up the ramp. Like you can just run past and be very annoying. He's a bit too close, so better to just back off for now. But even just threatening that, I think you can really take a mineral advantage, drop a quick fourth, go into 10-gate charge, and the Immortal Sentry focus of your opponent goes really poorly for them. Like once you've got Archon Zealot mixed in. I feel like the Sentries and the Immortals fall off really hard. MacSed though, he's actually saying, no, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go for my own Immortals as well. And it's actually more of a mass gateway transition for SCV. SCV is going 6 more gates. I guess they're both going to 8 total. So it's just better upgrades for MacSed, but pretty much a mirrored situation. Just MacSed has better upgrades.
Yeah, no, just going to be seeing MacSed way further ahead on, you know, initially that +1 and now moving in towards that +2 as well. So he's going to be having that, also investing into that charge, which is something as opponent is not going to be behind on too, because obviously initially we had that investment into the Robo rather than the Twilight and the Blink, so that's going to be a difference between these guys for a little bit as well. Just going to be seeing more gateways finishing up. Of course, the more gateways we have, the more production there is, the more dangerous this can all be as well, so getting into a good little spot here, Big.
Yeah, proper macro game. This is so bizarre after what the PvPs we watched today. I'm like, what is this? This is Haas does not approve. Haas is watching this, shaking his head, getting these guys don't know how to flip a coin properly. What are they both doing? Trying to hedge their bets? This is crazy. So I'm kind of like, I keep expecting a player to just make a big, you know, play to try and win the game, and I'm like, nope, they're just trying to build advantages. MacSed's fourth is very slow, like I said. Like he could just go for a huge +2 timing, but it does feel like he could easily have squeezed a fourth base in, and you know he's on the 3 gas timing of just Mass Zealot Stalker Immortal with +2. He's only got 2 Immortals, 3 on the other hand for SCV. SCV hasn't really overprobed the fourth though. I do prefer SCV's position. You've got nice blink forward to try and catch from MacSed. Will it cost though? They're both just trading Stalker for Stalker here. And a nice blink away for SCV. Overall, SCV's lost 5 Stalkers for 6 of MacSed's. That being said, more Adepts and a Sentry were lost earlier in this game for SCV, so that does cost you.
Yeah, and good force fields here. Just going to get another couple of catches, and that is going to be SCV. Just pushing MacSed back down again. I think doing a pretty decent job of this altogether, Pig. Just holding MacSed off, not letting MacSed get too much done initially or anything along those lines. Keeping this nice and calm as we knock down one pylon around this right-hand side. We are going to see the few Stalkers moving across from SCV again. Going to try and come meet up here and get something done.
Cool. MacSed's going for it. Wow, okay. That's very brave. There's going to be, good force fields for zoning for him. He did get the enemy observer snipe as well. SCV trying to push in, but those force fields keeping a lot of his army at bay. MacSed really trying to be very frustrating with his force field usage. He's trying to pick up these units a few at a time. That one Immortal for SCV is just sitting out in the open. It's finally going to go down. Same time on the right side, the Zealots happening as well. Force fields trying to go down. Zealots finally getting in there for SCV. MacSed with the +2 versus +1 advantage, taking a pretty good fight. More Zealots coming in just when he needs them. He's got to focus those Immortals down on the left, though. Letting those survive for so long, maybe a slight mistake for MacSed. That one red hit point Immortal is just asking to get clicked on.
Yeah, it is so low. It's so easy to get rid of that. And if that goes down, it does feel like we're then missing a substantial amount of, you know, everything else that's remaining here. So something to be watching for as we just have the fight getting ready to go again. MacSed still thinking about
Ooh.
going in for this. Going to find a pile on the right
I
side.
like that. The drop in the main, really, you know, because you already created an awkward spot for SCV. Now it's you got to defend 2 different angles, and the SCVs are gonna, the Zealots are gonna be dropping inside that main base. And here we go. Cannon is there. Ooh, nice hold position to try and limit the surface area. Great reaction. SCV all over it. Shuts that one down. Does have an army at the front defending as well. +3 finally starts with MacSed, so he will continue the upgrade advantage. It is really about fighting right here and now for both of these guys. Oh, Blink gets punished. A couple of Stalkers do fall. But right now, the upgrades are even. MacSed's Prism stuck in the back. Wouldn't mind him just sieging that up to make sure it doesn't get F2'd in. 3 more probes building at a time for SCV. SCV is going to go Robo Bay as well. Would love a second Robo. I think in this sort of game, you've got these big kind of chunky ranged armies. Disruptor shots are just massive value makers. And it does feel like SCV has been a bit more comfortable going to the next step, whereas MacSed was like, no, I want to be in your face in the mid game. And I wonder how big those disruptors will be as this game goes.
Yeah, disruptors are going to be a huge factor, and it does feel as though MacSed trying to be the aggressor is not quite working out for him. And if he now gets kind of caught up behind on the disruptor count as well, he's going to have to slow down even more because they're great defensive units. And that's definitely not kind of boding well for kind of the whole setup here, honestly, for him. So I'll say I'm a little bit concerned for I'm a little bit concerned here for Max. I feel like this is not quite going the way he wants it to. So yeah,
it's not like he's way behind, but I feel the exact same thing as you, right, Wardy? It's like because he's not progressing, I guess, is the thing that I'm sensing. It's like, I'm like, if there was a Dark Shrine coming in, maybe he's thinking about doing a DT drop. He's taking the quicker 5th base, but 5th base is like a little behind. And he's still just making Mass Stalker immortal. And this sort of army really suffers against Disruptors. He does have, you know, a massive Zealot count. They both do. Disruptors are coming out. The +3, so the upgrade advantage is disappearing for him. It feels like SCV is playing a more well-rounded game of PvP. And MacSed is kind of stalling just a little bit in the mid game. He's not out of plays yet. He's still got a good army. He's got those good force fields. He showed he can use those really well. No force fields available for SCV. See what those sentries can achieve in this scenario. He does kind of split the positioning a little bit. Hold positions as Zealots. Battery overcharge going down. SCV is going to try and deal with this. I think the Disruptor really makes things super tough, though. Oh, big ball of the Zealots. Nicely done there. The first Disruptor shot lands in a big way. SCV is kind of milling back and forwards a little, though. Prism in the back does go down. Stalkers in the cannon with some Zealot Warpins will be able to deal with that. And I think SCV, even though he's been losing a lot more units, 1,500 resources behind the units lost, he's managing to now push him back. And as there's a second Disruptor, MacSed has to get out of here, and he's got to transition. And he's either got to go his own Disruptors or make his way up to air. He can't really just stay attacking front on into Disruptors, can he?
No.
Oh!
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna try and send it, man. But I mean, I just do not think that this is still working out. From the longer this goes, the less I like from it, you know? It just feels like this gets worse and worse given time, so...
Those Immortals did start a step really nicely, though. They got a lot of hit on the Stalkers. It looked like it was a disaster of a fight. Good defensive pullback for him. Like, he salvages it a tiny bit, but oh no, more Zealot Stalker comes in. Yeah, great decisiveness by SCV. And dude, SCV's played a proper macro game. Really good defense, and it just feels like MacSed doesn't have a next play. He's kind of going probes, he's rebuilding Immortals, but there's no sign of him wanting to play the next unit set. And that's a scary thing in PvP, because if your opponent knows you're not comfortable playing Disruptors or Skytoss or DTs, you kind of end up like, oh, I really need to get advantages with Sentry Immortal Stalker. If I don't do that, what am I going to do the longer the game goes? Well, you know, it's kind of tough. So I think this is a great position for SCV. Catches these Zealots in the south, though. Stalkers are going to dive in. Zealots will buy a bit of time here, and the Immortals, as they come down, should be able to defend this. Good micro by MacSed to find what value he can. He is down 50 supply right now. And the cannon defense with the Zealots on the right side. Up on the top, SCV dives in there on that base and is deflected. Disruptor shot's taking out a few Stalkers. In the north of the map, it looks like Zealot Stalker Warpin does chase SCV away, but SCV has map control, adding more upgrades. And it just seems to have the more well-rounded army with those 4 Disruptors. I mean, MacSed with some good Disruptor snipes, admittedly. But it's what else is he going to do to take advantage of that? And that, so far, the answer is not just going to keep microing these Blink Stalkers and Zealots and see if I can catch you out. And it is possible. He's not out of this game, but he definitely doesn't have any strategic advantages. It's all about tactics. MacSed is going to have to tactically outposition and catch SCV off.
Yeah, he's going to have to outplay him, but outplay him hard as well. I mean, you're asking him to do this with less units, less supply. I guess similar economies, but again, just also worse units when it comes to that. So less and worse. MacSed really has to do some outplaying, out-positioning for sure. Right now, those Zealots are just kind of bullying him around, pushing him back a certain direction, just making sure that he can't actually commit through it all. So that's definitely going decently as these Stalkers still getting chased back. The Zealots are going to hold that down the low ground, and we are going to Nexus into the bottom left corner. So SCV just takes further advantage of this map control pig. He knows his advantage, he knows he's got it, and he's just going to keep on pushing it. Not messing around.
SCV's looking proper European right now, man.
Yeah.
Went ahead, get more ahead. There's no urgency with like, I got to go win the game. It's I'll harass with the Stalkers, I'll push you back, I'll look for good trades. But it never feels like there's a rush to it. SCV's really impressive. Disruptor shots, you know, picking him off, baiting him into those. And the Stalkers in the top are going to blink in. Oh, warping in Stalkers. Yeah, I'll one-shot those. No worries. Runs away from the Immortals. That's a great choice. And he drives a wedge up in between these bases. That shield battery can get clicked down very quickly the moment he decides to. But he says, you know what? Whoa, big Zealot flank, actually. Great move for MacSed. Those disruptors are recharging right now. But oh my gosh. Oh, the disruptors.
Oh, it's disgusting. As MacSed is going to lose everything here. That might just be enough to get the GG out of him, because he's also losing a fight to the top side. It is going to be called GG, and SCV is going to take map number 1 of this best of 3. And he is going to go ahead in the PvP after a very comfortable, calm, collected game fig. Like, he was so happy to be like in the lead and just kind of in control. He felt no immediate pressure. He didn't have to go super soon or anything along those lines. Well, that was just a really solid game from him. And like I said, just very convincing stuff. Like, it never really felt as though he was kind of feeling threatened or dangered or anything. So just played at his own pace, and that's such a kind of privilege to have in a mirror matchup, especially where you're just like, cool, I can kind of do my own thing. I'm not really worried about what you're getting up to or how it's going. So yeah, really nice for SCV. Plays a great game number 1. And MacSed definitely felt, like I say, it was desperation without being fully like on a timer, I suppose, because he was always like, oh, if I have to tech up, like, I'm in trouble. So he tried so hard to make it work off of the other, you know, the units just pushing in repeatedly. And that obviously just was not meant to be.
It's so funny because, you know, this is like a definitely, like MacSed was at his peak, I think, in Heart of the Swarm. I remember competing against him back in the day, and Sentry Stalker was like, that mid game was very prolonged in Heart of the Swarm because the economy built up kind of slower, I guess, and but then you could sit on your 3 bases and it was kind of hard to secure a 4th and onwards. And you'd see a lot of force field Stalker usage, and I've almost forgot you could even do these sorts of pushes where he's like, I'm like, we're doing a Stalker and Model Sentry push at like 9 minutes with like just that. And I'm like, oh yeah, like these force field splits were really good. But SCV was just, you know, hanging in there good enough with his own defensive force fields and positioning to not get outplayed enough there. And like I said, I think the earlier blink could have been used by MacSed to take a much earlier 4th and a much earlier 5th with the hallucination scouting that he had. So maybe an earlier sentry, extra 3rd or 4th sentry to have a few more hallucinations. Pushing that greed could have been a nice way to get that edge. Felt a little conservative maybe in terms of how he built up. And if you know SCV is such a defensive player, pushing more all-in or more greedy is the way you take advantage of a middle-of-the-road player, right? Yeah, this guy's a bit too middle-of-the-road. Let's like surprise him with the most all-in build, or go really quite greedy. Either of those extremes. But if you yourself kind of go down the straight middle of the road, you're going to find yourself in an even situation. And the guy who's then more comfortable just progressing to the next stage and just slowly building up is going to be the one who's favored. And we saw that's clearly SCV in this strategy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just waiting for the players to join the lobby here. And we'll see if MacSed... Do you think MacSed just kind of says, right, let's turn it into like a 1-base attack now or something, like much more timing focused, like much more heavily committed, even if that's even off of 2 bases? Does he go like a bit more aggro rather than just taking that 3rd Nexus this time?
I wouldn't mind a similar matchup of openings, but maybe like a proxy gate for the 4th gateway. You know, like the 4-gate blink pressure, try and deny the 3rd while you're taking your own 3rd. It's not a massive variance in the build order, but sometimes it's just, oh, I have 12 blink stalkers at your 3rd. You only have like 8 or 9, and I just run in and start one-shotting your stalkers, and it's, you know, snowballs really quickly. Just something with a bit more of a sharp edge to it, and maybe skip your robo. You know, hey, let's hope I scout Dark Shrine. If he sneaks one in the corner of the map, maybe I just lose, but I'm happy to flip that coin a little bit to a certain extent, take that risk. We'll go for, you know, blink upgrades straight into charge. Get the Prism in the back of the main with our first Zealots timing while our Stalkers and Zealots jump on the third at the front. We have a faster fourth behind it as well because we've skipped all this extra tech and that sort of stuff. You could even skip a Forge if you're willing to play that style and go super all in. So I wouldn't mind some of those early mid-game timing attacks out of MacSed as a way to really bring this back into his area of expertise.
All right, yeah, no, that's kind of what I was wondering. Like, if you think he's got that kind of ability in him, and kind of with you. We're going to head to Oceanborn then for game number 2 and see if MacSed will make those tweaks. And we'll see if SCV just wants to try and stay as that defensive Protoss again as we head into round 2 of this one. We are going to be starting in the bottom right-hand side with the player who is up a map here in the best of 3. In the blue, from Mystery Gaming, it's SCV.
And in the top left side of the map, the veteran, the old man of Chinese StarCraft, who will not go quietly into that good night. It is, of course, Invictus Gaming's MacSed. He's about my age, I think. So just a bit of a jokey joke there. We are older in terms of gaming terms. You know, back in the day, it was, they said, especially in the Korean scene in Brood War, they're like, oh, if you're 24, you're too old. You know, like your reaction speed's too slow and stuff. And I was like, I don't think that's the case at all. I think just a lot of people as they get older split their focus or lose their passion or whatever. You know, it's hard to maintain a career in any competition as young guns come up and they've learnt more than you. You know, a lot of people get to a phase where they're really good and they stop evolving at whatever thing they're good at, right?
Yeah.
It's very hard to keep reinventing yourself and relearning the basics and updating them. Like, that's why we see pro players these days. We say this player is really good, but their openings are a bit out of date, or there's this certain mechanic they just don't use because they've never taken the time to like relearn the more modern, more efficient mechanics, right? Like a lot of the players have like, you know, the button they hold down to spam gather commands on the minerals to occupy the mineral patch with the worker harass. You can see Dark doesn't use that at all. He's just like, no, I just click on it. I just click it. And that just can't compete with a guy holding down a button to spam 100 clicks a second. So that's why he always loses the little worker versus worker duel on the mineral patch usually. And it's like, okay, fair enough, but he still finds ways to win. And it's just interesting to see because a guy, you know, like MacSed, who's been at it for this long, and a lot of the players have, you've seen almost all the players who've been playing since Wings of Liberty reinvent themselves multiple times in their career, relearn certain mechanics, relearn certain things. And it's always cool to see one of the old dogs hanging in there and still giving all these young guns a run for their money.
No, it really is, especially in a game as aged as SC2, where even like the newer players are like, you know, from like 5 years ago now, right? Like you really have to do a rain check sometimes where it's like, oh my god, like he started playing when? Like I have to double check things. It definitely is just interesting to see someone like MacSed who's been here from the beginning, who still grinds it out and is still trying his best. Obviously, you know, he casts as well. He's one of the Chinese casters for a lot of the Chinese events and stuff. You know, he's involved in all that, so he's not just kind of focused on playing too, and yet he still is able to stay competitive. But again, like you say, your focus slips, and you know, not necessarily always in a bad way. Like I say, sometimes he's just casting, and he's not playing full time all the time nowadays. Yeah. So it does have that impact to it versus these guys who are still kind of gunning for like, oh, maybe I can still make it. Maybe I can be the best. They will take every edge that they can get, learn every new thing, and put all that time in. It's fun to see.
I mean, anyone out there who has kids knows it's time to bring out that dad energy when you get to this situation, right? You're like,
yeah,
I love you, son, but I'm going to keep beating you as long as I can. And I will keep making you work for it because I am competitive. And I'm not ready to pass over the torch just yet. And I get that energy with a lot of the older pro gamers where like they end up in these bad positions because the younger players have some like real advantages over them, but then they dig deep into their experience and they find a way to like leverage this weird position, often digging into like old experience from like 10 years ago in like metas, which these young kids have never played in. And they go, what is this situation I'm in? And the old dog's like, oh, I remember 2013, you know, Gold League Series Invitational where I did this up against Jaguar in the round of 8 or whatever, you know, and then like the young kid's like, I've never seen a guy do this strategy. Like, what the heck do I even do here? So always interested to see what goes on. Double Oracle opening, by the way, and there is 2 Stalkers in the main, which is enough to defend with limited damage. It feels like a very safe build for MacSed, but goes for the Rally of Probes. Great move for SCV. Knows his opponent's going to be prepared, so he goes for the safe damage. Oh, what a zoom ins today here. We got three probes, very nice. Ooh, barely gets out.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3 probes is nice, but obviously we'd love to keep the Oracle alive. There's so much map control you gain off of that, so generally something you don't want to let slip away. Couple gates still coming up. That blink coming in on both sides as well. Those oracles still positioned up to the top. For a couple of moments.
I was talking about 4-gate blink would be a good thing. It looks like SCV's the one who's going to be much more aggressive this year, man. That's a scary timing on the 4-gate blink. Oh no, the main! The main!
Oh no, double oracle. Yeah, you can't be letting that happen. That's in for 4 probes, and that is a huge deal as the oracles now drop a revelation down as well. Stalkers will take a couple of shots there. And again, that blink just about to finish up from MacSed, so he's going to have blink sooner, but his opponent will have more gateways like you're mentioning. That's going to be a little bit more pressure available to you too. That could be a big deal.
He is going to try and do his own forward gateway, but it's off 2-gate right now. So that's the thing is MacSed doesn't have as much production here. He's got more stalkers right now. Actually, this might be, I think this is a good enough timing. If he can get in there. Oh, the already
my goodness.
Again. He keeps
So
moving
much
out.
damage.
Oh no.
So
Dude, that
much
brings up to
damage.
13 probes. That's way too much damage. I mean, and the thing is, he's got to stop this battery getting up. But look, SCV has a lot of stalkers here. He's actually got a numbers advantage. SCV could take this fight. He's just afraid because he doesn't have blink. So understandably wary. Waiting for blink might be the better call. Pylons supply blocked him. That's a big problem right now. MacSed's getting some real damage. He's going to get rid of that third. Nice move from MacSed. I would say that's enough success already usually. But because he lost so many probes, he is still behind. That main base is defended this time. Blow-up Stalker's going to blink in the main. Depower the blink at 99%.
No.
Oh, that's actually so cute. Gets himself a Stalker for a Stalker. Does blink back most of his own Stalkers. There we go. Will pull back. And he needs to get out of there. Because remember, that Oracle's waiting. As soon as probes transfer to that third, that's going to go down potentially. Oracle does fly through there. Nice force fields on the low ground. He can't keep committing to this, though. You know that blink's going to come up soon. Getting some damage here is good, but MacSed, I think, is maybe going a bit too deep. That's what we were waiting for. That was a big mistake there from MacSed, going just a bit too deep, trying to rely on that force field. Definitely a strategy from the old years. For those who don't know, and Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm, basically 50% of Protoss victories involved force fielding their opponent in or outside of their base. MacSed did that a lot, so he brought back the old tricks as we were talking about.
Yeah, he dug deep for that one for sure. That's a well, big catch here for SCV, getting a bunch of kills. He's got one Oracle that's coming around the back again, still looking to maybe try and cause some trouble with that over the next couple of moments. So,
oh, big fight on the front though at the same time.
Stasis.
That's why he's distracted.
Yeah, huge stasis.
Big
Fight at the
distraction.
front. Well played by SCV to set that up.
Really nicely done, man. His third's going to be almost halfway rebuilt. I feel like he doesn't know about the game. That's where like a few adepts could come in and do some damage, but definitely a worker lead for SCV. The base is coming up. You've got Charge and a Robo coming in. I like that SCV is playing no Forge. I think in this sort of game, squeezing a Forge in is kind of scary and dangerous because it takes so long to give you any value. And SCV is like, no, I want value right now. In the long run, that's going to cost him, but that's, you know, only in the long run. Adepts coming in from the left, Oracle's pitting him in the back of the main, and the Stalkers on the front at the same time. That being said, good reaction by MacSed. Only loses 3 probes there, and he's got his own Adept counterattack at the same time. This game is getting messy. Quick recall here for SCV. SCV is taking no chances and shuts those Adepts down. Up 8 workers, charges on the way. Oracle goes in as well. SCV is being so nasty this game.
Man, he's playing so well with the Oracle and everything, right? Like, he's killing it. I love how he's playing. It gets me excited to continue seeing more games from him as the event continues. As he's playing his heart out right now. Playing some great stuff with that Oracle, keeping the aggression going. Adds a ton of gateways. He has Charge is going to be online for him soon. We're going to be into this very aggro, kind of heavy gateway style very shortly. He's going to be trilling an upgrade. And his opponent's already setting up the Robo as well, so maybe falling behind a little bit there.
Adept does get a few probes there. 5 probes in total. Not bad for MacSed. I think MacSed's he's got the upgrade advantage on the way, you know? So the longer he treads water in this scenario, he's now got the worker advantage. Like there is real potential here. SCV is finally going to find that gateway and be like, wait. You built your gateway that close to my third and I'm only just finding it? Oh, finally clearing that up will help out. And lots of gateways coming in for both sides. Charge and Robo of his own coming in for MacSed. I like that he delayed it. But SCV's got +1 attack of his own now starting, as well as the 4th Nexus. SCV has definitely shown more comfort rushing that 4th than MacSed. And, you know, we talked about it a bit, but old habits do die hard. And definitely it was an adjustment coming from Heart of the Swarm to Legacy of the Void going, wait, we can take a 4th before 10 minutes? And now Nowadays, you're like, oh, we can take a fourth at 545 if we're max packs. Like, it's so early that you expand. MacSed's still sitting on 3 base. The SCV's got the numbers, man. This is a scary moment in this game.
Yup, he has got a lot of units. They're here right now. They're very ready to fight, that's for certain. And we are kind of just seeing them not quite commit through just yet, but it feels like any moment he could pull the trigger and really send this a little bit. And make this a very scary situation. So SCV continues to get set up, continues to move into position here. And just sets out the frame. He's taking the fourth as well, by the way.
Yeah, he's got the fourth and double forge. He wants to play full mass gateway style. MacSed's had good defensive blink micro. He needs to get back to the batteries, though. I like the overcharge there. He's got to pull back maybe some of his weak stalkers for that. Just let that battery heal himself up. He's up in workers, but if he doesn't have his own fourth base building, you're playing gateway man versus gateway man. And as your opponent out expands you, that could be really good. But CV has stalled on the probes. MacSed's hanging in there. He has been pinned back in his corner, but I like this. Dropping a couple zealots. Battery will be able to slow down their damage as the Prism goes up into the main base. I don't know about the Prism committing to the main, though. Yeah, good choice to pull back. That's a good one. Yeah, you're going to lose your 4 zealots. You only got 2 probes. He's going to dive the natural. This is a crazy move for MacSed. This is wild. Is he going to recall out? What is he? Oh, whoa. He's so deep.
Yeah, he needs to be careful, man, because now you're going to get blinked on top of... Whoa, SCV steps back. I actually don't think he needed to there. He could have stood and fought. He really could have just been fine to take a bit of a better fight, but gives his opponent an opportunity. Now MacSed shows up bottom left with the Prism play as well, so gets that on the go. That's going to be a bit of a factor too, as we actually do blink one more time on the right-hand side. SCV about to be down on upgrades again. He never started his +2 attack, so while he caught up in +1, MacSed is now about to finish +2, and that is going to be, once again, a way for MacSed to win out in these, what is right now, quite frankly, just very gateway unit heavy trades, so the upgrades really go a long way.
MacSed did a good job of pinning him. I kept thinking, oh gosh, he's about to overcommit, but no, he pulled back at the right times. He didn't overcommit. Prism's still up. He's got a 17 army supply deficit. That's what's worrying, is the fact that it looks like he thinks he's going to win with these fights, and +2 is good, but I don't know if it's going to make up for 17 army supply. It's a big army advantage for SCV, and SCV's realizing that. He's going to blink forward. MacSed here, acting like the bully in this scenario, but he's actually got the army that should be cowering. He should be getting out of there as quick as possible. Zealot counterattack in the south again, but SCV, all things, added up, seems to be defending okay. But it's hard to tally it up. So I keep checking the units lost tab, and it's about 1,000 resource advantage to MacSed in the units lost. He's up 8 probes. If he transfers to his 4th, which he hasn't done yet, then that's going to be huge. The workers are oversaturated on his natural and his 3rd massively. He's got a big worker advantage. He's actually taking the army supply advantage for the first time in this game, but these stalkers are a little bit outnumbered. He's got to be careful. A lot of his zealots are massing out to the left.
Yeah, when you do obviously get closer and closer to SCV catching up, upgrade rise as well, so that does also feel like something of a factor here, given time, as we are going to be seeing more warpings coming through. Zealots stuck in the back as we're being shown, and this is actually getting a little bit wild as we have ourselves, the Zealots here from MacSed trying to join in as well, so this does get crazy across the board. And
getting the Immortal was huge as well.
Just about
really good focus fire. Yeah, MacSed's kicking it, man. He's doing really, really good. He's way up in economy once he transfers, but he's just not transferring. It's like he really wants to win with these timings. This is clearly MacSed's specialty, is mid-game blink timings, but the upgrade deficit's about to disappear. The tail end of that fight, very bad for MacSed. Even though it had started going well his way, it's still about 1,000 resources lost in his favor. He's still probing, but he's just been forgetting to transfer workers. And honestly, with his work account, he could have a 5th base up. He's got so many workers and nowhere for most of them to mine from. He's going to start a Dark Shrine. But this is what we're talking about with MacSed. Has that mid-game timing attack specialty. We need it. We need a 5th base for him, and to just keep transferring probes around. If he does that, I mean, he's doing a good job of keeping SCV pinned. SCV never built enough workers to match him in that regard, yet the income is not that different. It's only a few hundred minerals a minute. MacSed's thinking about taking the 5th base. He's going to keep shoving with the Stalkers. It's such a dangerous push angle again.
Yep, he's constantly putting himself in danger, man, as we blink forwards here. And it's just giving SCV a chance to utilize this larger army. I mean, we're on the way to the Dark Templar. That's cool, because that might just be enough to kind of knock SCV down a little bit once again. Stalkers here will likely get this Prism before the warp-in, so this will not go and do as much as MacSed wants it to. Oh, wow, more Zealots keep on warping in. Stalker's still taking damage in the +3 attack. Chrono boosting up off that Forge.
+1 armor finishes for SCV, that's big. That really matters, especially in Zealot versus Zealot. The armor upgrades cancel the attack upgrades. Stalkers, the attack upgrades are a bit more important. The Stalker blink forward, very ambitious for SCV. He's got the numbers though, big numbers advantage now, and everything's starting to fall apart. With that Prism going down, this army not being reinforced for MacSed, he's just lost a lot of his important units. Look at his work account, 74, but like I said, no 5th base, so a lot of them aren't mining effectively. He's starting a gas transition now, but it feels like SCV here is just a little bit more comfortable flowing through the game. In this case, it's not the Disruptor, it's the Double Forge transition. He has forgotten second armor upgrade, but that's just because MacSed's been so in his face. I do like the DT addition for MacSed. He's trying to get some Dark Templar to run those along the south of the map. Problem is, there are a few observers out, and I think the observer's actually going to see them coming through that middle bottom of the map. The DT is going to run right past this observer.
Yep, they're going to run straight through, so we see it if we're paying attention. We are going to chase with the army, the observer, and sieges. We go to run down those DTs, so SCV trying to shut off this potential harassment of MacSed. Does not really want to be losing any more workers. Problem is DTs go everywhere, although Cannon over here, that's going to be a defense already, so that's a good start. Cannon is just in the mineralize in general, make this a much easier defense than it would have been otherwise, so that's going to help you out. That puts you in the right sort of position. Sets you up in the right kind of way.
MacSed's making a second forge. I don't know if that really does anything because he's already finished +3. So armor and shields at the same time is not a very effective investment. I think disruptors would be so much more powerful. Like if we're planning to play a longer game, disruptors are other game changers. But MacSed has shown he really does not feel comfortable with those. And I think SCV, if he can kind of round out this with a bit of a gas transition, the disruptor transition, he looked so good with in the last game. He's already got the upgrade advantage for the first time in this game in about 20 seconds, and even more so when his +2 armor kicks in. SCV's adding Blink DT tech. He's got a bit more progression, even though he's way down on the workers. MacSed just took such a long time to take that 5th base, and now as SCV sets up for his own Zealot counterattacks in the north, he's still got a bigger army in the middle of the map, which he's had for most of this game. And the Stalker Zealot of MacSed is now out upgraded for the first time.
Yep. It's going to be a factor as well that these upgrades have finally turned around. Something that we've, like I say, has not happened throughout the course of this so far. We blink in as MacSed again playing aggressively, gets rid of that battery immediately. SCV has so many units across the map and he's doing very good damage, but then obviously he needs to be able to hold on here as well, and that currently is not happening. So this could be the one of these turning points. As we have ourselves.
Absolutely. I mean, good Stalker micro, but he's losing the 3rd and a lot of probes at it. Great Stalker micro though. That's going to give him value over time. You can see the army supply just dips there for MacSed as all of his Zealots go down, and that's the just focus on that micro for SCV. His own Zealots got cleaned up on MacSed's side of the map though. MacSed has still got that worker advantage, and he killed the Nexus, whereas SCV didn't. So you know, if MacSed can stabilize, he definitely could still do very well in this game. He's got his own double forge up, but he's not really using it. He's all about the micro in the middle of the map. SCV has Blink DT, but no splash damage. No Archons, no Disruptors, nothing like that. Now, you might be wondering, why no Archons to counter the Zealots? The reason is these guys are so heavy on Stalkers, and Archons are so short range, they will get focused down pretty quickly, and no one really has an excess of gas. So unless you have like a big gas bank, you don't really want to focus on Archons unless your opponents are massing Zealots, in which case you're like, oh, okay, let's get some Archons for the splash damage. So it's more of a Stalker battle with some Zealot support, some Zealot run-bys, both players looking for DT harass, but very much a mirror matchup. SCV still up 18 army supply. MacSed, now with his 5th base mining, is going to be a beautiful economic advantage. He's got a massive excess of probes, but you know what? Big skirmish in the fight. This could turn into an all-out brawl that decides the game. The Stalker count for SCV is so magnificent. 35-24, massive Stalker advantage, and +2 armor.
Yep, he just has the extra upgrades. He has the extra numbers, and he is winning through the middle of the map right now as we speak. GG is going to be called, and that is going to do it, as you're going to see SCV taking the win here, and is going to